My sister tried to steal my husband. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. My sister's message was mirrored on our living room TV when my husband whispered, "Ashley, please don't make me read it out loud." That wasn't how a normal Tuesday ended in a two-bedroom rental with a leaky sink and a stack of ungraded essays on the table. I was a middle school teacher, the kind who kept extra granola bars in her desk and said, "Use your words 800 times a day." Daniel was my complice. 8 years together, 3 married. We weren't flashy, but we were solid. Until Sienna started orbiting us like she owned the air. I had invited my mom over for dinner because she'd been worried about me lately. Her word. Elaine always worried, always smoothed, always asked me to be the bigger person. When she showed up, she brought Sienna too, unannounced, in a tight sweater that looked suspiciously like mine. "You don't mind, right?" Mom said, already stepping inside, already deciding. Sienna kissed my cheek like we were in a commercial. "Missed you, Ash." Daniel's smile was polite, strained. He'd been like that for weeks. Too careful, too quiet, like he was constantly deciding what not to say. I'd blamed work stress. I'd blamed my own anxiety. I'd blamed anything except the thought that my sister might be aiming at my marriage. Then Sienna's phone buzzed on my coffee table, and the screen lit up with Daniel's name. I didn't mean to look. I did anyway. A preview line slid across her lock screen. "Tonight. Tell her the truth, or I will." Timestamp, 6:42 p.m. My throat went cold. Daniel saw it too. His face drained so fast I thought he might be sick. "What truth?" I asked, and my voice didn't sound like mine. Sienna's hand snapped over her phone. Mom frowned like I'd accused her of theft. Daniel opened his mouth, closed it, then reached for the TV remote with shaking fingers. "I can explain," he said, but it came out like a plea, not a sentence. That's when I noticed our smart TV wasn't on Netflix anymore. It had flipped to screen mirroring, waiting. A new notification popped up across the center of the TV, bold as a confession. If you'd asked me last year whether Sienna would ever cross a line with Daniel, I would have laughed and said, she'd flirt with a mailbox, but she's not evil. Growing up, she was the sparkler and I was the candle. She got the compliments, so pretty, so outgoing. And I got the responsibilities, so mature, so dependable. Mom didn't mean harm. Elaine just hated conflict more than she loved fairness. When Sienna forgot her homework, Mom sighed and asked me to help. When I cried because Sienna borrowed my clothes without asking, Mom said, "Ashley, it's just fabric." Sienna learned early that consequences were negotiable if you were charming enough. By the time I met Daniel at 21, I'd already been practicing being low maintenance my whole life. Daniel loved that about me, or so I thought. He liked that I didn't play games. He liked that I meant what I said. When we got married, Sienna cried dramatically at the reception and told everyone. My sister finally found someone who can handle her. I remember laughing then. I remember Daniel squeezing my hand like it was a promise. For a while, Sienna was fine. She bounced between jobs, boyfriends, and fresh starts. She'd show up at our place, raid my closet, and leave with a lipstick print on Daniel's cheek from a goodbye hug that lasted a second too long. "Just Sienna being Sienna," Mom would say. The first time it really bothered me was small enough that I almost gaslit myself about it. It was October 12th. Daniel had driven me to school because my car wouldn't start. When I came home that afternoon, the house smelled like Sienna's vanilla perfume. Daniel was at the sink, washing a single wine glass. "You had company?" I asked. He hesitated. "Sienna stopped by? She said she was in the neighborhood." I stared at the glass. We didn't drink wine at noon. Then I noticed my favorite cardigan, my teacher cardigan, the one with the deep pockets, hanging on Daniel's chair. Sienna's size, not mine. Daniel followed my eyes and said too quickly, "She spilled coffee on herself." My cardigan reeked of her perfume, and Daniel wouldn't meet my eyes. After the cardigan incident, I started noticing details you only clock when you're trying not to look paranoid. Sienna showed up during the tiny gaps in my day, my planning period, my after-school meetings, my Saturday grocery run. If I came home early, she'd be leaving, hair still perfect, like she'd timed it. Daniel always said, she just needed to talk. On October 18th, she posted an Instagram story that made my stomach drop. "Men who cook are dangerous." The video was her laughing in our kitchen while someone, Daniel, stirred a pot off camera. You could hear his laugh. You could see his watch in the corner of the frame. My husband. My kitchen. When I asked Daniel about it, he rubbed his forehead. She was here for 20 minutes, he said. Interview advice. Don't make this a thing. Why didn't she text me? I asked. She said you were stressed. That word again, like it excused everything. Then came the late-night accidents. One ring calls at 11:40, something. A text the next morning. Oops, but dial. 3 times. Same window. Same emoji. It felt like she was testing whether Daniel would answer. On October 25th, Daniel's phone lit up while he was in the shower. I glanced at the lock screen and hated myself immediately. Sienna. Did she say anything? Are you okay? Timestamp. 10:13 p.m. When Daniel came out, I tried to keep my voice normal. Why is my sister checking if you're okay at 10? He hesitated, half a heartbeat, then said, she worries. You know how she is. I swallowed the argument because I didn't want to be the wife who fought over a text. 2 nights later, Mom insisted on family drinks. Sienna slid into the booth beside Daniel, not across from him. Her knee brushed his under the table and didn't move. She laughed at his jokes like he'd invented humor, and when I finally said, "Can you not?" she blinked, wounded. Elaine sighed. Ashley, stop reading into everything. Daniel stared at his beer like it was safer than looking at me. Sienna whispered, check what he deletes at night, and smiled at Daniel. The thing about subtle manipulation is you can explain it away until someone forces you to react in public. On November 3rd, Mom hosted one of her no-drama Sunday dinners in her spotless suburban kitchen. She made roast chicken, lit a candle, and acted like our family was a catalog. Sienna arrived late, hugging everyone like a celebrity greeting fans. Daniel offered to help carry dishes, and Sienna followed him to the counter like it was natural. I kept telling myself, stay calm. Don't hand her proof that she gets under your skin. Halfway through dessert, Sienna clapped her hands. I brought presents, she said, like we were 5. She handed Daniel a small gift bag first. He looked surprised. Sienna, you didn't have to. Open it, she insisted. Inside was a sleek black box of cologne and a card with gold lettering. Daniel read the card, then quickly flipped it shut. Mom smiled. That's sweet. Sienna's eyes slid to me. I got you something too, Ash. She pushed a second bag toward me. The tissue paper was pink. My stomach tightened for no logical reason. I pulled out a lace bodysuit, tiny, black, expensive-looking, and a folded note. There are moments where your brain tries to protect you by delaying comprehension. Mine failed. The note was in neat printed font, not handwriting. Wear this when you want him thinking about me. The room went silent. Even the candles seemed louder. Daniel's head snapped up. Ashley, Sienna gasped, hand to her chest like an actress. Oh my God. No, that's not. I looked at her. She was smiling with her eyes. I grabbed the wrong bag, she said, voice trembling perfectly. I swear, that was a joke gift for a friend. Mom's face hardened. Ashley, don't be dramatic. It's obviously a mix-up. A mix-up? My voice cracked. Why does it say him and me? Sienna blinked, innocent. Because you told me you were struggling, she said softly, turning to Mom like she needed backup. Ashley asked me for help. She said Daniel wasn't paying attention anymore. I felt my cheeks burn. Daniel stared at his plate like he'd been sentenced. In one sentence, she made me the desperate wife and herself the helpful sister. And Mom was already nodding, like Sienna's story had always been true. The drive home from Mom's house felt like a slow-motion car crash I couldn't stop. Daniel gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went white. Ashley, you know I didn't write that note. Then why did you look like you were about to throw up? I asked. He swallowed. Because your mom was there. Because Sienna was crying. Because I hate this. That word, this, like my marriage being attacked, was an inconvenience. When we got home, my phone already had 3 texts from Elaine. Mom, Sienna feels awful. Please apologize for snapping. You've been under a lot of stress, honey. Don't let jealousy ruin your marriage. Jealousy, not fear, not betrayal. Jealousy. I called her anyway. Mom, that note wasn't an accident. Elaine sighed like I'd asked her to mediate a parking dispute. Ashley, your sister is going through a hard time. She needs support, not suspicion. What about me? I said. What about my husband receiving gifts from my sister? She bought you lingerie? Mom snapped. That's not stealing your husband. It literally said. Ashley, she cut in, softer now. You always assume the worst. That's why you and Sienna clash. When I hung up, my hands were shaking. Daniel touched my shoulder. Can we please just move on? She's your sister. Move on from what? I asked. From her telling everyone I'm desperate and you're neglecting me? He looked tired. From the fight. That night, Daniel fell asleep fast, like avoidance was a skill. I lay awake, replaying Sienna's face when she said Ashley asked me for help. She hadn't been panicked. She'd been prepared. At 1:12 a.m., I got up and opened the doorbell camera app on my phone, the one Daniel installed after a package got stolen. I wasn't looking for cheating evidence. I was looking for my sanity. The event log showed front door motion, clips on days I'd been at school. October 12th, October 18th, October 25th. I tapped October 12th first. The timestamp read 12:06 p.m., and Sienna walked up porch steps like she lived there. By the time the sun came up, my stomach felt like I'd swallowed a fist. I watched the October 12th clip 3 times. Sienna rang the bell at 12:06 p.m. Daniel opened the door at 12:07, shirtless, casual, like it was normal. She stepped inside, and before the camera's audio cut out, I heard her laugh and say, "I knew you'd be home." It wasn't a crime. It wasn't even proof of an affair. But it was proof of secrecy. I called my best friend, Tessa, from the bathroom so Daniel wouldn't hear. My voice shook anyway. "Tess, I think my sister is trying to. I don't know. Replace me." There was a pause, then her blunt, steady voice. "Okay, breathe. We're going to get facts." That afternoon, while Daniel was at work, Tessa sat at my kitchen table with a notebook like we were building a case file. We wrote down dates from the doorbell log and matched them to my calendar. Parent conferences, staff meetings, days my car was in the shop. Patterns formed fast when you stopped making excuses for them. Then Tessa nodded toward the shared iPad on the counter, the one Daniel used for grocery lists, and streaming in the kitchen. "Is that synced?" she asked. "It's on his Apple ID," I said. He set it up. "Do you have the passcode?" I did. Married people share things. At least, we're supposed to. I opened messages and scrolled, expecting nothing. My heart pounded anyway. Most threads were boring, work group chats, his brother's memes, delivery notifications. Then I saw it. Sienna, muted. My finger hovered like I was about to touch a hot stove. I tapped. The last message was from October 25th, the night I'd seen her. "Are you okay?" Text. "Sienna, you're so much softer when she isn't watching." Daniel, "Sienna, stop. This isn't okay." Sienna, "Don't worry. I'm patient." Sienna, "If you won't leave her, I'll make her leave you." Tessa's eyes lifted to mine, and she didn't have to say it. My sister hadn't been flirting. She'd been declaring war. When Daniel got home, I didn't greet him with dinner. I greeted him with the iPad. He stopped in the doorway, keys still in hand. "Ashley, what is that?" "Your messages," I said. "My sister promising to make me leave." He blinked, then his shoulders sank. "I told her to stop." "You told her to stop," I repeated, "and then you kept letting her into our house." Daniel sat at the table like his legs gave out. "She showed up. She said she needed help. She said you'd be mad if I called you at school." "That's the point," I said. "She wanted you to manage me. Like I'm a problem." He stared at the wood grain. "I didn't want to cause a fight between you and your mom." "So you let her cause a fight between me and you," Tessa said from the couch, because she refused to leave. Daniel looked up, embarrassed. "I didn't. I wasn't thinking." After he went to shower, I kept scrolling. It got worse the farther back I went. She'd sent him concerned messages after every time I set a boundary. October 19th. "Ashley seemed really intense today. Is she okay?" October 21st. "If you ever need a calm place, my couch is open." There was a voicemail from October 25th at 11:46 p.m. I played it on speaker for Tessa. Sienna's voice was soft, intimate. "I know you're trying to be good," she purred, "but you don't have to punish yourself forever." Then I found the move that made my stomach flip. A screenshot Sienna had sent Daniel of my old Facebook post, cropped to make it look like I'd said, "I can't keep him happy." Under it, she wrote, "See? She admits it." And finally, the newest message, sent while I was teaching fractions that afternoon. November 4th. "She's chaperoning that field trip next week, right?" Daniel, "Yes." Sienna, "Perfect." The field trip was 3 days, 2 nights, and Daniel would be home alone. Sienna knew my schedule better than my own husband seemed to. I realized she'd been waiting for a day I couldn't protect my marriage. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Sienna wasn't trying to accidentally charm Daniel. She was running a slow campaign. Make me look unstable, make him look trapped, make herself look safe. Every move at Mom's dinner suddenly made sense. The lingerie wasn't meant to embarrass her. It was meant to provoke me. Tessa and I kept digging, but we did it like adults with jobs and anxiety. Carefully, legally, and mostly through what was already in front of us. I opened my text thread with Mom and searched Sienna's name. Weeks of little comments popped up that I'd ignored because they sounded like concern. October 20th, Mom. Sienna says you've been snappy with Daniel. Are you okay? October 26th, Mom. Sienna thinks couples counseling could help you. November 1st, Mom. Don't take this the wrong way, but maybe you should let Daniel breathe. I stared at my phone until the screen dimmed. She's been feeding your mom lines, Tessa said. So when you react, you look guilty. Then, at 9:17 p.m., my phone buzzed with a message from Elaine. Except it wasn't meant for me. It was a screenshot. A cropped text exchange. My mom had accidentally sent it to the wrong daughter. At the top, I could see the contact name. Sienna. Mom, she's tense again. Sienna. Yep. I can push a little more. Mom. Just don't make it obvious. Sienna. Don't worry. Ashley always makes herself look crazy. My mouth went dry. For a second I felt like I was 12 again, holding back tears while Mom told me to share my birthday cake, because Sienna is sensitive. Except this wasn't cake. This was my life. I texted Mom back. Why are you talking about pushing me? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally. Ashley, that's not what it looks like. I could have screamed. I could have called Daniel at work and demanded answers. Instead, I sat perfectly still and watched something inside me harden into focus. Because now I understood the worst part. Sienna didn't just want my husband. She wanted my mother to help her take him. I didn't confront Sienna. Not yet. If I went in yelling, she'd cry, Mom would soothe, Daniel would retreat, and I'd end up looking exactly like the jealous, unstable wife she'd been auditioning me to be. So I did what I tell my students to do when someone pokes them. Don't swing back in the moment. Document it. That night, I sat Daniel down on the couch like we were about to have the most boring meeting of our lives. Tell me the truth, I said. Has anything physical happened with Sienna? His eyes filled fast, like he'd been carrying shame even without cheating. No, he said. God, no. She flirted. She touched my arm. She came over when you weren't home. I should have shut it down harder, but I didn't sleep with your sister. I watched his face, listened to his breathing, the way his voice cracked on your sister. Tessa watched too, arms folded, unimpressed by excuses. Then you're going to help me, I said. Daniel nodded slowly. Whatever you need. The plan wasn't dramatic. It was controlled. Step 1, move the fight into writing. No, he said, she said. Tessa drafted a message from my phone that sounded like a truce. Can we talk? I don't want Mom in the middle. We sent it to Sienna at 8:26 p.m. Step 2, make sure Daniel was present for anything she tried. He agreed to keep his phone where we could see notifications. We turned on the doorbell camera's save clip setting. We set the living room TV to screen mirroring and tested it twice. Step 3, invite Mom, because Elaine only believed what she could witness. I texted her, come over tomorrow. We need to clear the air. She replied within a minute. Finally. I hated that she thought this was about my attitude. Sienna answered my message at 8:29 p.m. Of course, she wrote. I've been so worried about you. Then, at 8:31 p.m., a second text arrived, this one not sweet. Should I tell Daniel you're ready to let go yet? Daniel's jaw tightened. Tessa's eyebrows lifted. My hands went numb around my phone. Because she didn't wait for tomorrow. She was already stepping on the gas, hard. At 10:06 p.m., my phone rang. Mom. I almost didn't answer. I knew the tone in my mother's voice before she even spoke. The I'm disappointed but trying to sound calm tone she used when I got a B in 7th grade. Ashley. Elaine said, what is going on with you and Daniel? My blood went hot. Why? There was a rustle, like she was walking away from someone. Then she lowered her voice. Sienna just told me something. She says Daniel crossed a line. I looked at Daniel across the room. He'd been staring at his own phone for the past 5 minutes, jaw clenched, thumb hovering over the screen like he was afraid to touch it. What line? I asked. Mom exhaled. She says he kissed her. She sent me proof. My stomach dropped through the floor. Mom, no, I said, and my voice sounded small. She's lying. Elaine didn't say yes or no. She said the worst thing. Why would she lie about that? Because she's trying to take my life. Because you taught her she could. I didn't say it. I swallowed it, like I'd been trained to. Mom texted me the proof while I was still on the call. It was a screenshot of a message thread labeled Daniel, cropped tight. The bubble read, I can't stop thinking about last night. Under it, a heart emoji. Timestamp at the top, 9:58 p.m. Except Daniel's real thread had a different background color. His contact photo didn't look like that. And the font spacing was off by a millimeter, small enough that only someone desperate would notice. I shoved my phone at Daniel. Tell me this is fake. He stared, swallowed hard. That's not my screen, he said immediately. I didn't send that. Then why is she doing this? I snapped, and the anger finally broke through the fear. Daniel stood up so fast the chair scraped. Because I let her get too close, he admitted. I drove her home once when her car wouldn't start. I didn't tell you because I knew you'd think. Think what? I demanded. He opened his mouth, then his eyes flicked to the hallway like he'd heard something. She might have recorded me, he said, barely audible, and I don't know what it looks like. Then his phone buzzed again, and his face went blank. He stared at the new message and stopped answering anything at all. Tessa didn't let me spiral. Don't argue about what she might have, she said. Make her show her hand. So we changed the plan overnight. At 6:15 a.m., before I left for school, I texted Sienna, I'm not okay. Can you come over tonight? Just us. I added a heart, because she liked to think she'd won when I sounded soft. She replied in under a minute. Of course. I love you. Daniel watched me type, his face gray. She's coming here? Yes, I said. And you're going to hear everything. Tessa came back after work and sat at my dining table with her laptop open. Screen record when she texts, she instructed. Save everything. Daniel put his phone on the counter, ringer on, then disappeared into the spare room with the door cracked. I'll be here, he whispered. At 7:42 p.m., the doorbell camera pinged. Sienna stood on the porch, hair curled, lip gloss fresh, holding a bottle of wine like this was a girl's night. I opened the door and let her in. She hugged me too tight. I've been so worried, she murmured into my hair. We sat at the table. I kept my hands flat so she wouldn't see them shake. I saw the screenshot you sent, Mom, I said. It scared her. Sienna sighed, tragic. I didn't want to, Ashley, but you've been ignoring signs. What signs? I asked. Tell me exactly. She leaned forward, eyes bright. Daniel is unhappy. He told me he feels suffocated. Did he? I asked. Or did you make that up too? Her smile flickered. Then it smoothed out again. Why does it matter? She said. If he's thinking it, it's true. I took a slow breath. Sienna, I need to know if you fabricated the messages. She tilted her head, studying me like a puzzle. If I did, she said softly, would it even be wrong? I'm just speeding up what's inevitable. Under the table, I started a screen recording. So you did fake it. Sienna's mouth curved. Ashley, she said, almost pitying, you're finally catching up. Then her phone buzzed, and she glanced down, smirking. See? She whispered. He's texting me right now. And she turned her screen toward me on purpose. The next night, Mom came over tense and fast, like she wanted this over. Sienna arrived 10 minutes later, makeup flawless, posture proud, like she expected me to fold. Tessa sat in my armchair with her laptop open. Daniel stayed out of sight. Elaine didn't even sit down. Ashley, she said, we need to talk about what Sienna told me. I know, I said. But first, you're going to watch something. I tapped screen mirroring. My phone filled the TV, bright and undeniable. Sienna's smile thinned. October 12th, I said, and played the doorbell clip. The timestamp read 12:06 p.m. Sienna on my porch. Daniel opening the door a minute later, casual, letting her in. Sienna scoffed. That proves nothing. Then watch the pattern, I said, and showed 2 more clips. October 18th and 25th, same midday visits, same secrecy. Mom's mouth tightened. Sienna, why were you? I opened Daniel's real messages thread and scrolled to the line I couldn't unsee. 10:14 p.m., Sienna. If you won't leave her, I'll make her leave you. Elaine's face drained. Sienna. He was leading me on, Sienna snapped. Ask him. Daniel stepped into the room, shoulders rigid. I wasn't, he said. I told you to stop. I played the voicemail from 11:46 p.m., Sienna's soft voice telling him he didn't have to punish himself forever. Mom flinched. Sienna's cheeks reddened. You're obsessed, she hissed at me. Normal wives don't save clips and timestamps. Tessa didn't move. Normal sisters don't plot a marriage. I pulled up my screen recording from the night before. Sienna's own voice filled my living room. If I did, would it even be wrong? I'm speeding up what's inevitable. Silence. Then I put the final screenshot on the TV. Mom and Sienna texting about pushing me, about not making it obvious. Elaine's eyes went wet. That's not. Sienna lunged toward the TV stand like she could grab the truth and crush it. I stepped between them and said, Mom, you have to choose what you believe right now. Elaine looked from me to Sienna, and I saw her loyalty wobble. Sienna didn't cry when the evidence played. She didn't collapse in shame. She got angry, sharp, focused anger, like I'd stolen something from her. You're doing this to humiliate me, she said, voice shaking with rage. You always needed to be the good daughter. Then she stormed out, slamming my front door hard enough to rattle the frame. Mom didn't follow immediately. Elaine stood in my living room staring at the frozen screenshot on the TV. Her own words, her own complicity. When she finally spoke, her voice was small. I thought I was helping, she whispered. She said you were pushing Daniel away. I laughed once, bitter. And you believed her instead of asking me. Mom flinched. I didn't want to choose between my daughters. You already did, I said. Daniel reached for my hand, and I pulled away, not because I thought he'd cheated, but because he'd let it get this far. Conflict avoidant doesn't mean harmless. Sometimes it means you quietly hand power to the worst person in the room. The next morning, my phone exploded with family texts. Aunts, cousins, people who hadn't asked about my life in years suddenly had opinions. Sienna had spun her own story fast. I was controlling, recording everyone, having a breakdown. Mom didn't correct them. Not right away. Daniel and I argued for the first time in months, the real kind of argument where your throat hurts afterward. I told her to stop, he insisted. And then you let her in. I shot back. You hid it because you hate drama, and now I'm the one living in it. Tessa helped me do the practical things. Change the lock code, tighten privacy settings, block Sienna on everything, and save every message in a folder labeled Do Not Delete. She said it like a rule, not advice. 2 days later, my principal emailed asking if I could stop by for a quick check-in. My stomach dropped. Teachers don't get quick check-ins for no reason. Then a text came from Sienna's number, right on my screen. Hope your boss likes receipts as much as you do. I sat in my principal's office on Friday with dry hands and a practiced smile, like I was one of my students about to be scolded. She slid her laptop toward me. Someone emailed the district, she said carefully. From a personal account. They claimed you were unstable at home and recording people without consent. My face burned. It's my sister. I figured, my principal said, and her voice softened. Do you have context? So I did what I've been doing for weeks. I showed receipts. Not revenge receipts, reality receipts. Dates. Screenshots. The doorbell timestamps. The messages where Daniel told Sienna to stop. The screen recording of Sienna admitting she faked things. My principal nodded slowly. Thank you for bringing facts, she said. We'll document this as harassment. You're not in trouble, Ashley. I walked out shaking anyway. Winning doesn't feel clean when the person attacking you shares your DNA. That weekend, Daniel and I started couples counseling. He didn't get to hide behind, I hate drama anymore. He had to say out loud that keeping secrets to avoid conflict was still betrayal. We made boring, necessary rules. No private contact with Sienna, ever. All family gatherings had to be mutual decisions. If Mom tried to keep the peace, we left. Elaine finally came over alone on Sunday. Eyes puffy, voice hoarse. I'm sorry, she said. I let her steer me. I wanted to forgive her immediately. I didn't. I told her, if you want me in your life, you can't pass messages from Sienna. You can't explain her. You can't minimize me. Mom nodded like it hurt. I understand. Then she handed me a spiral planner. She left this at my house, Elaine whispered. I didn't want to look, but I did. The pages were filled with neat little lists and dates, like a student's study guide. September 2nd, start casual texts. September 18th, stop by when Ashley's at work. October 19th, plant stress with Mom. November 3rd, Public moment. Make Ashley react. Next week. Field trip. Push hard. My throat tightened until it ached. This hadn't been a mistake, or a crush, or a messy impulse. It was a plan she'd been writing for months. People kept asking if my marriage survived, like it was a reality show finale. The honest answer was, it changed. Daniel didn't get a gold star for not sleeping with my sister. He still had to face what his silence cost me. In counseling, he finally said the words I needed weeks earlier. I was afraid of conflict, and I chose the wrong person to protect. I told him, I don't need you to be fearless. I need you to be loyal out loud. We rebuilt in small, unsexy ways. Shared calendars. Phone boundaries. No more handling my emotions for me. When Mom tried to test the new rules, Sienna just wants to talk. Daniel was the one who said, no, before I even opened my mouth. Elaine did her own work too. She stopped framing cruelty as sensitivity. She stopped asking me to be the bigger person when what she meant was the quieter one. The first time she said, Ashley is allowed to be angry, I cried in my car afterward because I'd waited my whole life to hear it. Sienna stayed blocked. She mailed a handwritten letter once. No return address, just my name in her careful script. I didn't open it. Not because I was petty, but because I finally understood that my curiosity was one of her doorways. We skipped Thanksgiving with my family that year. Daniel roasted a tiny chicken for two. I graded papers at the counter, and the quiet felt like safety instead of loneliness. Losing a sister hurt, but losing my marriage to her would have hurt more. Here's what I learned the hard way. If someone repeatedly crosses small boundaries, they're rehearsing for bigger ones. If a family member calls you jealous every time you feel pain, they're not protecting peace. They're protecting the person who benefits from your silence. And if someone competes with you, they don't love you. They love winning.